welcome to BizTech's Technology Show. Today we feature Yuno, a LATAM startup in the realm of the global payment orchestration space that has just arrived in the Asia Pacific region. Now, Yuno is a hot startup that has just secured its latest round of 25 million US dollars from a consortium of prominent investors, including DST Global Partners, Andreessen Horowitz, and Tiger Globals. Truly big names in the global VC space. Now, to tell us more, we've got the head of Asia Pacific, Jonathan Hall, to tell us more about Yuno. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to sharing more with you and the audience around Yuno and our value proposition.
Now, for a start, give us an overview of Yuno and your role within the company.
More than happy to, Brian. So Yuno simplistically is a payment orchestrator. And what that means is we participate in the information flow to help businesses optimize their payment experience, both for their customers and their internal teams. So within the fintech industry, there's a lot of different naming conventions that are used, aggregators, acquirers, e-wallets, and the like. Yuno's specialization is providing connectivity to all of the above. So our customers, our enterprise customers, are no longer restricted to working with just one financial services partner or two because of tech debt or limitations within their business. By connecting to Yuno, we provide coverage across the globe and help them add redundancy, resiliency, and reach to their financial services capabilities.
Okay, break that down towards in terms of examples of how you help companies globally.
Sure. So in the circumstance where we work with some tier one airlines internationally, when a consumer goes to that airline's website to facilitate a purchase, for example, buying a ticket, underneath that transaction, Yuno's infrastructure is helping the airline optimize and enhance the conversion of that transaction, reduce the fees associated with it, and of course, ensure that the experience is a great one for the customer. When we think about improving the experience for the airline's internal teams, we've built some really impressive tools using AI and the like to automate reconciliations. So there's less manual processes for these large international businesses, and they can get some efficiencies from some of the services they're offering.
Now, one of the interesting things is you're not from the traditional spaces. You're not from China as a fintech payment startup. You're not from Europe. You're from Latin America. Latin America has a very complex payment structure. And then companies like you have solved that problem. Very similar problems in the Asia Pacific region, isn't it?
Totally agree with you, Brian. I think I agree. Our LATAM heritage is a strength, in my opinion. Certainly, very strong sense of culture and community. We place a lot of emphasis on the relationships that we have with our clients, and we use our heart in our engagement with them. But you're right, the market in APAC particularly is very similar to LATAM. Fragmentation, different languages and cultures, unique regulatory environments in each country. And therefore, for that reason, some of the fundamentals and all the skills that we possess place us really well to succeed in the APAC region. And of course, help our customers here, help our partners here.
Now, Yuno's just come to the Asia Pacific region. Tell us about what's the strategy? You're new to the business as well. You've just arrived. So what's the strategy for APAC in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So very much focused on growth, but sustainable growth. As we all know, that's the important trend at the moment from a macroeconomic perspective. When we think about sustainable growth in APAC, we're fortunate because we've already built leading architecture and infrastructure to help us service our customers in this region. So what we're really focused on now is localization, but localization, excuse me, from a client engagement perspective. So in the coming months or 12 months, we'll be adding more and more people in local markets, places like Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, and of course, Singapore, so that we can provide in time zone support and coverage to our customers, as well as, great international reach.
Okay, give us a sense, because you've just arrived in the market. You've come from LATAM. It's a complex market as well. Where are you seeing the gaps in the market? You're not the only player in this space. There are a lot of players who have come into Asia Pacific region to solve these problems. Where are you seeing the gaps? Sure. And where do you think your value proposition is?
Thanks for asking, Brian. I think the good news is for a business like Yuno, there definitely are a lot of gaps. And the flip side of that, of course, is for our clients, there's a lot of problems that they look to us to help solve. So within the fintech ecosystem over the last 5 or 10 years, there's been a huge, I guess, growth in the number of providers that exist and that seek to service the market. But because of the complexities within fintech, the licensing obligations, the requirements around data sovereignty, it's actually very hard to do a great job in every single country. And what that means within the ecosystem is you have businesses like a European provider who may be very strong in the Netherlands, and they have an offering in Indonesia, but Indonesia isn't their home market. Therefore, they are not the best option or alternative in that particular country. Or to flip that premise around, you may have an Australian business that's really good in Australia, but isn't the best in Thailand. So what Yuno helps our clients do, helps our customers do, is access the best capability in every single country, because you're no longer limited to the services from one particular provider. By connecting to Yuno, you can access up to 300 different providers across the globe. So that means we have multiple providers in every single country that we service, and therefore we can provide access to the best provider in that particular country, as opposed to being limited by the infrastructure that one particular player may have.
And so give us an example now. Asia Pacific region, there are a lot of conglomerate businesses, for example. How would you help them?
Sure. So I really think about 3 key pillars. One is redundancy, the second is reach, and then the third is resiliency. So when we think about redundancy, Yuno operates on a successful transaction basis, meaning completed transactions. Our number one KPI or goal as a business is to help our partners, these MNCs, achieve more successful transactions. So the way that we do that, of course, is by having the best capabilities in each particular country. When I think about resiliency, we don't just help our businesses and our customers optimize for cost and authorization rates, 2 common topics that come up in digital payments. We also go down that next level. So thinking about latency. If gamification is really important to a business, how can we help them complete their transactions within the shortest period of time, 0.5 milliseconds, as opposed to an offshore provider, which may only support 1.3 milliseconds. So there's a lot of attributes and or characteristics that we're helping these MNCs solve for. And then that third, I guess, key pillar is reach. So today a business may be in Indonesia or Malaysia, but they're curious or they want to explore Vietnam or Argentina or the western part of Europe through SEPA. So what enables our customers to do is, through one connection to us, access the rest of the world, A/B test tomorrow one particular country, the day after turn on another particular country, without having to continuously go back to your product team, to your roadmap, and to reprioritize technical integrations, which have historically been a limiter for these MNCs when it comes to expanding into new markets.
So Jonathan, this is really interesting. You've just mentioned that one of the things that you talked about is A/B testing and testing before you already enter. Tell us a little bit, drill down a little bit into those sort of things that you're doing, because this is something that then is quite unique, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. So we're actually quite fortunate at Yuno. A lot of the partners we have today, a lot of the customers we have today come from 2 key categories. One is merchants directly, so those large MNCs that we spoke of just before. The second category is actually other fintechs. So you have some fintechs which might be really strong in Southeast Asia, but some of their customers are really interested in North Asia or South America or other regions. So within these fintech customers, they come to us to utilize our capabilities to expand and enable their expansion into different markets without having to manually go and complete those integrations themselves or manually go through the process of identifying those partners.
Okay, so that is really, and I'm going to stop you here because that is really interesting. Essentially, you are enabling other fintechs to go global without having to necessarily put the manual connections together and the relationships. And that's quite a strong value proposition.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, you're exactly right. So it's not even just helping fintechs go global. It's also intra-region or even domestically, because I think what matters in the circumstance of redundancy is, the expectations from a lot of merchants or customers, businesses today continue to increase as they should. So therefore, the minimum standards they expect from their own suppliers continue to increase. So the reason we've been so successful helping other fintechs is because they see us as an insurance policy. In the day that their infrastructure has some challenges or their current providers or partners have some challenges, they know they can utilize Yuno to ensure their transactions are successful and they deliver that great customer experience back to their own client.
Fascinating. Now, you've just raised, as I mentioned at the start of the interview, 25 million US from blue chip investors. How is the company going to deploy that capital, and what is the impact going to be in the ASEAN landscape for 2024?
It's a great question, Brian. Certainly, we will cautiously deploy the capital, but the way that we look at it is fuel to continue our sustainable growth. So APAC and/or the North American region are two key areas we're trying to grow in within 2024. Within 2025, we're targeting Africa, but certainly within 2024, that capital allows us to double down in these different regions and ensure that we can bring our products and our solutions to more businesses that need our services. So we see it as a great sign of our success to date, and also belief that within the market, we are helping businesses optimize their payments, and certainly that we can continue to do so in the future.
That's been, this has been such an interesting conversation. I've learned a lot, and I think I've got to place a mental note of speaking to you offline about using Yuno's services. But Jonathan, before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I'd share with the audience that tech debt, technical resource, it's finite. Therefore, a lot of businesses put off optimizing their payments, put off optimizing their infrastructure because inertia creeps in. Build versus buy, the inability to make a decision between different options in the market, different vendors in the market. And that's where Yuno really comes into its strength. Rather than having to choose one particular partner, one particular solution, I'd really encourage businesses to think about having it all. That way you're not stuck with a suboptimal outcome, and you can really continue to fuel your own growth because you have access to the best capabilities in every country that you service. So look to solutions like Yuno within fintech, of course, as a payment orchestrator, and then also adjacent verticals where there are other orchestration platforms as well that help with SaaS products. I'd really encourage the audience to say, or to look at themselves in the mirror and look for those opportunities, because they really will drive a big impact on the bottom line for those companies.
Jonathan, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
My pleasure, Brian. Thank you for your time, and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Now, we've been speaking to Jonathan Hall, he's the APAC head of Yuno. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to BizTech's Technology Show. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.